I'm Chef Egg, and we're going to get underneath the shell of the most creative people in Baltimore. This is What's Crackin' with Chef Egg.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So we have Christoper Schafer of Christoper Schafer Clothiers. We're in Harbor East, Baltimore, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a professional, creative person in Baltimore.
Okay.
So if you could tell us a little bit how you started Christoper Schafer Clothiers, like where did the seed come from, and then kind of what was your journey to where you are today?
So the seed was from working for other people all of my life, and then realizing that I really kind of needed to do it my own way, and to not have any barriers or boundaries, and just have the freedom. But when you do something like that, it also comes with the freedom of failure.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of responsibility because there's nowhere to point the finger if it doesn't work out. So it's something that I didn't take lightly.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I gave it a real try.
And how did you get started in clothing specifically?
I had about a decade ago, I'd moved to London, and I was living there. We went over there for my wife's work, and I was recruited by a company and was taught how to design clothes while I lived there. And then after I came home, not long after, I decided I needed to start my own company.
Yeah. And look, I'm a musician. I'm a chef. We're not known for our styling grace at all times. You're selling really, really high end stuff. So what's the difference between something that I get at Macys, a suit or a sport coat, as compared to something that you sell?
A lot of it is the fabric, the detailing, the construction of it. I mean, it's everything all put together. I mean, there's certainly some really nice off the rack suits that you can get, but it's a different experience when you're having your clothes made for you, and that someone is really looking to. I help people to build a wardrobe. It's not just about making, it all has to start with one suit, but then make other clothes that are going to make your wardrobe look exponentially bigger by the pieces that you add to it.
You're also a musician.
That I am.
And how long have you been playing for? What do you play?
I'm a drummer. I've been playing pretty much all my life.
And how do you think that the music and the fashion go together here in Baltimore?
Well, I think that music and fashion they're two creative art forms, and I think that I think that they always have really worked together in one sense or another. But I think that for me here is that when I started this business, is that I ran a rehearsal studio where bands practiced and everything. I ran it with my brothers, and my first office or studio for the business was located next to my jam room at the Hour House in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I've kind of, since the beginning of starting this business, it's been music and fashion put together the whole time.
How can a schlub like me, who doesn't have a lot of funds, who does want to be out there, on the town playing and doing the chef thing, what's the first thing that a guy like me can do to up his fashion game?
Well, a big thing that I think about is it's really about where it is that you're going and what you want the clothes to do for you. But before I was in this business, I wasn't a suit wearer.
Yeah.
So I get it that it's like that not everyone walks around in a suit all the time, but I think that there's times when you want to have that kind of go-to thing, and whether it's going to be for weddings or funerals or court or anything like that. I mean, it's like then some of those things pop up on you. You can't predict that they're going to happen. They just happen. So I'd kind of go after the approach of that every guy should at least have one good suit that they can wear for anything. And that's a good starting point. And usually that'll be the thing too that kind of introduces you to having nicer clothes. And then you build a wardrobe off of that.
You started out, making, custom bespoke suits in London.
Yeah.
This is the bespoke suit capital of the world.
Right.
So what types of things did you learn from them that you were able to bring back over to the States that's upped not only your style game, but upped your service game as well?
Well, that's a great question. When I went over there, I kind of took the blank slate approach, because I was in a new city and I didn't know anyone there, so it was all everything was new to me.
Yeah.
Right. So it became very obvious that I wasn't at home seeing the same people, and I really wanted to make the most out of my experience of being there. So I wanted to listen a lot and learn a lot, and really, I was really fortunate to have great mentors that really, I think that now that I'm mentoring people myself, is that you learn that when you have an eager student that wants to learn, you teach them more.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was kind of in that situation where I was ready to learn something new, and so being over there, I really learned about how to make clothes fit properly. They were doing fitted clothing in England before it was really happening here.
Oh, yeah.
So I really got dialed in on doing it there, and then brought that back here, and sort of had to kind of fine tune the fitted clothing with the comfort with the way that people like to wear their clothes in the States, and sort of blend it together. And then more of the fitted stuff just kind of started to catch up more here, and I was already very well accustomed to doing that. Mm-hmm. So it was that, and then as far as the service piece goes, is that I was I went from being a guy that was from Baltimore and playing music and working jobs and doing whatever to kind of keep playing music all the time, to all of a sudden I go move over there, and we were living in this beautiful house, and I was making clothes for all of these executives in the city in London.
It changes your whole outlook,
everything,
doesn't it?
And you're walking around. I was in the Square Mile, which is like the original London, all these old buildings, and it just everything. It goes when you change your
like environment,
everything, right? So it's like right. So you change that, and then you start to change yourself, and you just really start to learn more and more. But what it made me learn more about the service part of it is that when I would go and call people, and I would have to cold call people to go and see about going to go meet with them to see if they wanted clothes. Yeah. They're hearing an American accent, and they're thinking, are you traveling from the States or something and coming over here? And the Englishmen are very particular about the way they're very particular and proud of their English heritage. Yeah. And so it made it that being an American, it made it a bit more difficult. Yeah. And because you had to really up your game on everything that you were doing, and so that it just makes you better sometimes. Yeah. It's like, what is it, iron forges iron, right? It's sort of one of those kind of deals.
That's awesome. So you're in England, you're starting to make these suits. What is when you were first starting out, what was the biggest mistake you made and said, I'm never doing that ever again?
I think that that's a tough one. I think that what I kind of saw was that once I really started to know what I was doing, I was being mentored, and I was shadowing these guys and following them everywhere. Yeah. And then they started to, and then they would and then when it was my turn, they would start to follow me. Mm-hmm. And I just, there was just some times when it's like when you would want to, like you'd want to speak and you would want to kind of jump in on a conversation, and you couldn't. But I think that the one thing that I remember is I was walking down the street with my mentor, and I was so used to, here the pedestrian has the right of way. Yeah. And I remember this cab cut out in front of us, and I got so mad I kicked the cab, and my mentor he's like, cars have the right of way here. And it was just kind of just sort of made you realize, like, I think that was like a defining moment when I was like, I need to kind of slow my roll a little bit. So it was like the feisty American, and I was like, I need to kind of chill it out. Was sort of the beginning of the gentleman career.
And it's another thing you said, learning how to keep your mouth shut. Like, you don't always have to talk. Yeah,
that's an important one.
Sometimes it's better if you just shut your mouth.
Well, when you're dealing with expensive things, sometimes you need to let people process what it is that you're talking to them about.
You gotta let them breathe a little bit.
A little bit, especially it's a lot of information when you're making clothes for someone. It's a lot of choices that go into it, not just the fabric, but every little detail, and sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming. So when you got to give someone a chance, and people process things differently.
Chris, I met you at an art show, what was it, Raw Artists, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And, this is a theme in these interviews where I go up to people and I say, hey, let's be friends. And from there, I'm friends with these people. And it's
funny how it works, isn't it?
Well, it's very hard to create friendships, I think, when you're an adult. and there's a lot of acquaintances,
Right.
and there's a lot of this, and hey, I know that person.
Sure.
But there's not a lot of people you can say, I know their wife and I know their kids,
Right.
and we actually talk about stuff that matters in life,
Right.
that has nothing to do with any of the subjects, professionally speaking.
Gotcha.
And I think it's a very positive thing. I think it's a great way to. It's just a great way to live, whether it's professionally and through art as well.
Agreed.
I think it makes the connections that I make here more positive.
Right.
And but I meet a lot of people at your studio. What I'm going to is you really like to throw a good party.
Thank you.
And when I'm here at your studio, and I've been catering your parties for a while now, I meet so many different types of people I never would have the opportunity to meet.
Thank you.
And the minute that I say, I see him in the city and say, oh, you were cooking at Chris's spot. And instantly you have an in with them.
Right.
And I think it has to do with the hospitable nature of your venue.
Thank you.
Being over here in Harbor East. Why do you like to throw such a great party? And what do you feel that brings personally as well as professionally to your business?
Well, I grew up in a house with. I have 4 brothers,
Mm-hmm.
so there were 7 of us. So it was like always kind of surrounded by people
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And then as I guess even like as a teenager and stuff, I started throwing parties, and then through the playing in bands and everything, is that you're constantly having shows and events and everything all the time. So it's kind of almost like part of my DNA, I think. But what I realized as I was starting the business is that I thought, you have to think about what are your strong suits, and I know how to bring people together, right? And so I've been doing it for years, so I know how to do that. And what happened is that before I was in this space, I was down the hall in a smaller spot, and it was kind of tricky to find your way in there. You'd have to come up through the hallway around the back and everything like that. So I realized that if I have these parties and I bring people into my spot, they get more familiar with it, and they're going to see our work around all over the place. And it just is a good, natural, organic way to get people together. And plus, because I have friends from different paths and walks and everything like that, is that if you bring all these people together and it's in an interesting environment and they're meeting new people, is that you can help to make connections with people. And people do that for me, so I like to return the favor. And we have a pretty eclectic client base, and what I tell people all the time is that the common denominator of my clients is that they're successful. That's how they can afford what we do.
Yeah.
And so when you get them together, along with musicians and artists and all these people, and they all get together under one roof, I think that when you have great food, people love the food. Like they put a pretty good hurting on it.
Yeah.
So they come out, they eat, they drink, they have a good time. The music is good, and it's just and I enjoy it. It's I like getting people together and really being able to celebrate life and have a good time.
Yeah.
So that's and some people, like my wife is like more of the small gathering stuff, and I'm more of kind of like to have a lot of people in a whole big time and stuff like that. So again, everybody's kind of different, but it's something that I enjoy.
What you said, you have successful people,
Yes.
a lot coming through here. What types of professions are your clients?
Well, when I first started, I really had to go after what I thought were sort of the people who would wear suits all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking like bankers and attorneys, right? Because those guys have to dress up for work. So have a lot of clients that do that, right? And then as you start to have events and meet new people and network in different places, you'll find people that are just entrepreneurs. So they might be doctors, and so they don't dress up for work. But when they do, it's kind of funny when you're working with guys who don't dress up for work, because when they're dressing up, they're really actually dressing up because they want to. They don't have to. So they don't have the same restrictions, say, than a guy who has to dress up for his role at work, or the guys who dress up for the role at work might want to have clothes for when it makes them feel like they're not dressing up for work. So it's like that's all like the psychology part about what we do, but Yeah, I mean it's really it's quite a mixed bag of people that we make clothes for, because some of them it's for the profession, some of it people who are getting married. We deal with a lot of grooms, so a lot of so that's a lot of special occasion stuff. But then other guys who just need custom clothes because of the way that they're built. So it's really a great mixed bag, and that's what makes it great. Is that it's a very colorful environment, and you get all so many different walks of life that come through here. Is that it keeps it interesting, and that's kind of what I need in my career, is something that keeps me engaged.
Who is the absolute coolest person you've ever put in one of your suits? I think I know the answer.
Yeah,
but I
mean,
hear
I'd have to say it was probably Farrell from Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like just. He's a cool guy, and I've always liked their music, and but there's been a couple times I've been able to put him in suits, and then you see him go out on the stage and perform and give me a shout out in front of everybody, and I was like, wow,
how does one put Perry Farrell in a suit? Do they call you? Did you call them? How does that work out?
Oh, it was Baltimore is the type of city where I look at it where it's not a big city, but it's a city where you can really get connected with people who are making things happen.
Absolutely.
And a friend of mine, he is the guy that actually where I got this stage from. That's where he puts together the stages for all kinds of shows. Yeah. And so he was working on a show where Jane's Addiction was coming to town, and they needed some clothes. They needed some alterations done to the clothes. Yeah. So it started with that. And then I met the band, and then it's like started talking, and got a chance to hang out with Perry for a while and really talk with him, and we just sort of clicked. We had a great conversation, and it was about music, it was about fashion, it was about being parents, it was about surfing, it was all and I was just like, and he's he's just a good guy to have a conversation with. And then at some point it's like then it isn't about like being a fan. It's like when you meet somebody,
it's a friendship.
You admire their work, and then they're actually cool. It takes it to another level, and so that's sort of where that kind of evolved from. But I mean, I would say though, it's like we deal with so many cool people that we do that are interesting people. I mean, it's like just that they do different work, and then you start to realize like there's some things like, especially when you deal with like the people who are doctors and stuff like that, that is just, I'm not cut out for that.
Yeah.
But
so
there's
cool.
some fascinating, with having Hopkins here, there's some people who are doing some fascinating things, and it's mind blowing that they're what it is that they do, and that that stuff that I know that I would not be cut out for. I mean,
it's funny you say that. My favorite thing to do at a party, clearly I could talk about being Chef Egg all day long, but that's, I think, the most boring thing in the world.
Right.
And I love to get a really interesting person and just ask them questions and be like, here's a whiskey. Will you sit with me for 20 minutes and answer so you're a doctor. And you slice into people. Yeah. And you have their heart in your hand.
I tell you what.
How does that feel? And they're like, oh, it's totally cool, and I really love it.
Well, it's like second nature. They don't think anything of it. Well, I have a client of mine that's a brain surgeon, right? And he saved my friend's life. Yeah. He operated on my friend's brain 2 times, 2 10-hour surgeries, right? Yeah. And my buddy had to be awake while he's doing surgery, right? And it's like, it just, you know what I mean? Just unreal that when in guys who are, there's guys who are doing hand transplants. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing.
It's fascinating, and it gets me. They want to know how it is to be a Chef Egg, and I'm like, it's not as fun as being a you, my friend.
But the thing is, though, is it's like, it goes back to, it kind of takes all kinds. And it really is that thing of like, if you really like what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life. And that's things I could never really understand that before, and now I'm getting it, and I understand what it's all about, and I really, honestly, probably work harder than I ever have in my life. Oh yeah. But it's one of those things where I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, so it isn't really that hard, because it's a weird thing.
I always put it this way, whether it's cooking food or playing music, two of the things I love the most. They're not paying me to cook food and to play music. That's the free part. Yeah. They're paying me to lug all my stuff out. to load it up.
Especially you're doing two things that require.
Yeah.
Well, you said you have a smaller kit that you move around, but it's like still drums or bringing out cooking equipment is like you're moving a lot of gear.
And the cooking's free. You got to pay for all this crap I got to lug around. Sure.
That's funny. I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Yeah, same thing in my job. I teach cooking classes. I teach a real seriously wide variety of people how to cook, and they want to know what I'm into, and I'm just like, but you're so much cooler. You do something that's so cool.
Well, that's what's great about meeting interesting people, right? I mean, that's what makes the conversation good. Is you meet people who don't do things that you do, and if you take a genuine interest in them, I mean, because there's a lot of different ways to become successful, and there's a lot of different levels of success, and it's really, I think, ultimately, it's finding what is yours and what makes you really actually happy and passionate about doing something, right?
Well, I think that's a great question. How one defines success. When I was young, I want a hot wife, a couple kids, big house.
Sure.
No debt, good to go.
Yeah.
And now you get older. I got a hot wife. I got a couple kids. I got a nice house.
Right.
And you say, well, what's the next? What's the next step?
Sure.
And it's hard to kind of understand, what is success as you move through life and as you gain these really positive things in your life.
Of course.
What more could I possibly ask?
See, that's where the time and money balance comes in, and that's definitely something that I'm actively working through right now is balance. Because I think sometimes you really have to put some weight on one side of the scale, and then it starts to balance out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I've been in business now for over 6 years, and I've been going after it pretty good for a while. But this past summer, I was able to go. I took a month off and we have an RV, and I took it out to Wyoming and Montana, and really, I love being outdoors like that. It's great, especially somewhere so beautiful like that. And that's sort of what it's kind of supposed to be all about. Is that it's like you're that you can have your career and still have a great life, right? Is sort of the balance of all of it. Because if you're constantly just chasing the next material thing, you're trying to fill something that you never will, and
it never happens. It never will get filled.
You're going to always find someone that's more successful or more wealthier or whatever you want to fill it in with. But it's really, I find that it's very much like it's all about, it's relative to the person.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, sometimes I look around and I'm like, I don't know, man, I got a pretty awesome thing going on.
It's pretty damn good.
I'm like, it's working out, so I'm pretty happy.
I'm Chef Egg, and we're going to get underneath the shell of the most creative people in Baltimore. This is What's Crackin' with Chef Egg.